Welcome to HSBC Build and Grow, a series that focuses on managing finance for business continuity. As financials take center stage in business continuity conversation, your story, together with HSBC, is proud to present this series featuring some of the finest minds in the ecosystem to help businesses leverage the financial ingenuity, perspective, and insights from these experts to power their business growth and their business continuity. I'm thrilled to introduce our next guest, Archit Gupta. As we all know, is the founder and CEO of ClearTax, India's largest tax and GST platform used by millions of individuals, CAs, and businesses. Archit, very excited to be talking to you. You know, ClearTax is a name that comes on top of the mind when we discuss about, paying taxes, and you built a very interesting brand. And what I learned today is that you also have a very interesting story. So you started in 2011, right? And it was 11 days before the deadline of tax filing. And you got 1,000 people on your platform. So very interesting start to your story. Just will you take us through how did you start? What has happened since 2011?
Yeah. So, Shradha, it makes me look back on the time that has gone by. Like it's such a massive and fun journey. Let me dial it back to where we got started, and it was a very humble start. We weren't even incorporated as a company at that time, and we just thought like, okay, this is a problem people face, and my dad's a CA, and so he and I got talking. I'm an engineer, like a very unusual background to be running this company. IT computer science, then like in the PhD program at Wisconsin, dropped out, was in the Bay Area working for a systems company. So like nothing to do with taxes, nothing to do with this space, nothing to do with fintech. Fintech wasn't even a word when we started. So I mean, like it's been crazy and fun in that dimension. But we started with a very simple goal, let's make it easy for people. Seemed like an important problem to solve, and we just built like a product I would want to use, like my family would like to use, my friends would like to use. So it started with very like, okay, let's put the consumer at the center of universe, who's like very scared about this topic of finances, taxes, and let's like work backwards from them. And so I think we were able to build an enduring brand out of it. Every year the platform grew, and with zero marketing. So the first 1,000 people showed up without any marketing. So to us, like that was okay, something is working. And after that, like it's the platform and the company has taken a life of its own, going from taxes to investing, GST coming up in the B2B side, and now getting into like insurance, lending, everything. So I think the really platform part has started to happen. So it's been fun.
Yeah. Archit, before I dive into other questions, I really want to understand what you said, the platform that you built, right? And it's interesting that uh, interesting that of course it's taxation solution and the GST solution, different solutions, but at the heart of it, you built an interesting product which is easy to use. So I want to understand from that lens, if you can tell us, because in India we say product, asan product, seamless product banana is not so easy, but you build that. So tell us your thinking about it. Like, were you very conscious that you have to build a product which becomes a platform? How and then what all things did you do about it?
Right. So I think that's a great question, and perhaps I think the the structured thinking perhaps happened after the fact. So I think we stumbled into like a bunch of things, and then the structured thinking takes over. So I think we first started out with a very simple objective: build the greatest product that we can, make it easy, make it like the simplest product. Like we have like 70-year-olds using our product, like we have young millennials, first time jobs using our product, right? Like, so make it like the easiest product which people can relate to, and like do not struggle on the way. And we started arriving at it. Okay, what does this mean? Like, okay, people can upload a form 16, it'll read the platform will read the stuff automatically and produce something. So that came out from a user insight, because I talked to so many users and they said like वो form मिलता है ना उसको how do you go about, like, so we thought like, okay, let's take the form and read it. So that's how it got started. The platformization really triggered actually in a separate moment altogether. So I think like I'll just walk through the journey a little bit so that it's fun. The first part was actually
also fun. Archit, I'm asking you because there's so many entrepreneurs out there who will be building product, right?
Yeah.
So the whole product thinking is something that we'd love to understand also. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I'll share a few insights, right? One was one was actually the flip over to Y Combinator, right? Like so we were building this product out of India, and it was going okay, and like we were starting to scale up. We started seeing competition, like typically like US companies which were very big in the US and coming to India, and then being very aggressive with marketing and dollars, right? So we were like, okay, we'll die in this case. So we thought like, what do we do? So the Indian ecosystem was not very mature at that time. Like I'm talking about 2013 time frame. And so what became interesting was there was this accelerator based out of Silicon Valley, and like they never had a precedent of investing in emerging economy companies. So the first one that they'd done, which I saw, was a company in Brazil. So that like made me think like, okay, they might be looking outside. So then I like applied and we got in. So the product to platformization journey triggered from that thought process, Shradha. Like what happened was like a bunch of like YC has a lot of founders as partners. So a bunch of them started asking us questions like, what do you see? Where does this go? How does this like take its next step? What does the journey look like? So I think we built a great product in the first couple of years, and like it was like sustainable, it was growing, and people are telling each other like word of mouth growth. So that was fantastic. Then we started asking this question, where does this platform go? So we then had a very interesting fork in the road, like in terms of we raised money from Sequoia, Founders Fund, Peter Thiel, all of these guys. But the fork in the road was like, hey, do we continue to help consumers with their tax savings, wealth investments, and so on and so forth? Or do we do this like new entire thing, which is called GST, which India is launching on July 1, 2017. And that will completely change like how 10 million businesses behave. So I think like that was the interesting part of the journey. And the question you're asking, right? How do products evolve? How does this happen?
Yeah.
I think it is, to me, like it is very, very organic from customers. Like customers tell you where they want to go. And you have to like, I think they don't tell you explicitly sometimes, articulated, unarticulated. You have to like obviously read what they're saying. But I think if you follow the customer, keep following, I think you reach. So I think that's what happened with us.
So what I'm hearing from you is that what you did well, if I may say so, is to listen to what they were saying and also listen to what they wanted to say and they were not saying. So that constant listening to the customers is what led to the seamless product that you built with ClearTax. Yeah. Okay. I want to also understand what has this lockdown, and we can't be interviewing and having a conversation right now without understanding this impact of COVID-19. We are all impacted, but what does it mean for you, for ClearTax, for your space?
Right, sure. So I think like few things. I think like I'll step back from the customer, the economy, and then come back to us, like because that's the center of the universe is, right? So I think the consumers are deeply impacted. Like one is like the compliance stuff, the government has provided relief, so that's good. So because like all deadlines have been pushed out, but it's going to come back at some point. So I think like what starts to for us, like we like the internal joke sometimes is like death and taxes, like they come back, right? Like there's never like you can't escape them, right? So I think on the consumer side and the tax stuff we do, I think that is not affected by this lockdown. And like, so for us, what has happened is like, there's definitely slowdown in customer access. Like we had like a large enterprise sales team, which sells to like, we have customers like Titan, Raymond, Sun Pharma, Bisleri, these kind of customers. Like, so a bunch of that used to happen face to face and like very enterprise salesy, like you meet their CFO, you meet the right people, and so all of that is obviously was offline right now. So the customer access was dropped. On the digital side, I think it was fine. I think we were very good at inside sales. We continue to like engage with customers digitally, like a lot more webinars, a lot more like learning series. So we were doing e-learning, we were doing a bunch of things. We doubled down on those. So customers started to hear about us from the perspective of, we got like a lot of famous people from the community, like experts, CFOs, CAs, who understand the space and gave like interesting perspectives either on the lockdown or like how should they think about their business, like what are strategies to run their business, like not just the topic itself, but like how to react to the situation itself. So I think like some of these things like have served us well, but overall as a company, like I think what does the lockdown imply and what does COVID-19 take us to is more interesting than what happened in the last 60, 75 days. I think we saw growth. So what started to happen was, we are the only at scale cloud-based platform in the country on this problem. So on consumer tax, we are the only cloud-based platform. On like B2B taxes, we are the only cloud-based platform. CA side, CPAs in India, we are the only cloud-based platform. So we started seeing growth. Like our growth baseline shifted because people realized, okay, it's a lockdown. They can't access their tools, which are locked in their office. They have to still service clients. So our tool became the only place that they could come to. So we saw a baseline shift of like about like roughly it will trend to 2x of our August numbers
Oh,
because it'll like it's very rapidly ramping up. That to me was like that to us has given us a tremendous amount of confidence in the platform, like further growth. Second, because like there's real users, real evidence on the growth side. The second part which is happening is like we were building tools for small medium businesses to like maybe create an invoice, collect payments faster, like send reminders, all those kind of things. But like more like larger businesses which have like a GST component, they want to create like all their journey from like where a bill
huh.
starts to pay out. So all of that, I feel like India is hitting a seminal moment. I think what we thought we'll achieve in 3 years, I think we should get there in a year. So I think like all those like I think are big changes because of COVID. Like the behavior is shifted. Like customers are like super open to that conversation that yes, we need a tool which works on a smartphone and the desktop, and we would like to buy. And like people are not afraid of buying. Our sales revenues are like returning and like almost there, like pre-COVID levels. So we are like feeling okay. Customers are like adopting the cloud, adopting technology, and like that's a massive shift in India. So I
Yeah.
think like that is a big positive. And even small guys, medium sized guys, like people who we associate with not being very progressive, I think just this lockdown had forced them to adopt technology, embrace it for the first time, and like now behavior is shifting.
Yeah, yeah, no, no, I completely agree with you. I keep telling to everyone now I meet these days, of course, without that much excitement, because of course people are, it's a suffering time for the world and for most of the, for all of us. But I just think that हम लोग इंडिया में बोलते थे ना डिजिटल इंडिया, अब लग रहा है पिछले 2-3 महीने में होने वाला है और हो गया है, मतलब
Huh.
yeah, that's true.
Well, obviously, I echo what you just said, Shraddha. Like, it'll be a very tough humanitarian time, and like the economy is like in a very tough stress because see that's the part we observe on our business metrics, right? Like we are observing like because we almost have a index on the GDP, right? Like because we get like GST and income taxes information, right? Like we saw severe contraction on movement of goods because e-way bills were not being generated. We saw a severe contraction on the amount of GST being reported, the GDP overall, and so on and so forth. And now some of that reporting will catch up. And but like obviously the economy is under a tremendous amount of stress, and there is a humanitarian issue out there, which we are thinking in terms of like as a company we are trying to help people with working capital now more and more because
Oh,
what we have started to discover is we are going and talking to customers and they're saying like this is the number one stress, like should we go for the MSME registration act or not, like if we are in MSME registration, like what does this mean for like working capital, like does it lead to more compliance or better payments, because like one example of the MSME act is like your customers have to pay you within 45 days.
hmm.
They can't open credit for longer than that. So some of these things, like we are educating the customers, we are helping them getting registered, we're giving them either tools or services to like walk this journey.
You know, you mentioned something interesting that you're also helping people with working capital. I just want to understand what are the different things that you are doing, because I honestly thought that you're looking at the taxation,
Yeah,
consumers taxation, and also GST filing.
yeah.
But what are the different areas that you're operating in?
Right. So, Shraddha, again, like because of the name ClearTax, I think we get like siloed into that bucket, like and I think we have taken small but meaningful steps towards adding to our platform, and this has been a journey over the last like I would say 1 year,
Yeah.
and like COVID has forced us to move much faster now.
Hmm.
So over the last 1 year, we added a few services. One was helping startups get incorporated, registration of the startup. So like if you're an entrepreneur and you just wanted to put together a company with your co-founders, we'll help you do that. We'll help you find a zero balance bank account. We'll get you a GST registration number if you want it. We'll give you an MSME registration act like trademarks and so on and so forth. So getting you started like in a structured form so that like you are not on the wrong side of the law or what have you. So that was part number one, like which we started, and it's seeing very interesting success. So this like again came organically. Customers started asking us like, "Hey, you do our taxes, you do this for us. Can you help us get started in a company?"
Yeah.
So I think that became like an organic journey around that. The second part was as we started like getting GST data, we went back to customers and said, hey, banks are interested in like non-collateral backed loans if they have access to this GST data and they can like
Oh, mm,
co-lend or what have you. So
mm.
now I think that has become interesting because that was the first step that we started evaluating with customers. So we started talking to customers about programs in which like, do they want to have MSME registrations, which like help them in certain dimensions? Do they want to like look at this Atmanirbhar scheme, which the government has rolled out? How does that help them? We started with like a very simple thing. We ran a webinar on this Atmanirbhar scheme and we saw like tremendous amount of interest from
Yeah.
customers. So it was like, okay, this is resonating very deeply. So we started like unpacking like customer needs, and then we discovered, okay, who are the only like the right now the only people available to lend is large banks. Everybody else is like in a tough situation. So I think we started putting together, okay, the best customers and the lenders who are available, who are lending now in this kind of environment, can be
Are
put
people
together.
lending right now?
Yes and no. So I think very very tough environment. I think it'll get better in three to 6 months. I think we as a company are not stressed because obviously we see software revenue, we see services revenue, so we are not so stressed on the lending level.
But what is interesting is that what you're saying is, and especially for MSME, that based on, and because you do their GST filing, based on that, you are able to connect them to some of the large banks
Yeah,
who are lending right now,
exactly,
right? Interesting.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I didn't know that you're doing that. That's a very interesting and very needed right now, right? Like,
So that
yeah,
became like so because what happened in the GST is kind of context. You start to see the like flow information because GST has all your sales, all your purchase, all your taxes, all your vendors, all your suppliers. So it has like a lot of relational data that you can start making sense of, and you can start. So I think that became step number one. Step number two, we are evaluating like how do we help. This is like again we are listening to customers. So it's not like we are inventing something new or like something rocket science,
yeah.
but like what we learned is like in this COVID time, Ministry of Home Affairs has announced like that SMBs and MSMEs should also offer health insurance to their employees. So we are trying to figure out like how do we facilitate that. So I
Huh.
think like because of our access and like understanding reach, we are just like trying to solve these problems like one by one.
How many people do you reach out to? Like reach to, sorry, not
Yeah.
reach.
So on the consumer side, like Shraddha, it's like 4 million folks, like which is like salaried millennial young folks who have disposable income and like generally above the age of 23 and like dominant like above below the age of 39, and they have like usually a white collared salary job earning maybe more than 5-6 lakh rupees, like going up to like whatever, and like these are the guys who are interested in taxes, savings, wealth creation, and so on. On the business side, like we have like slightly over 1,500 enterprises
Wow.
out of the top 10,000, so 15% market share in India,
Not
who use our GST platform like every month, every day. Yeah, not bad at all. And like these are like obviously marquee brand names like which you and I use and
yeah,
relate
yeah,
to.
yeah.
And then we reach like close to 600,000 micro and small businesses.
600,000.
Yeah, so
Wow.
6 lakhs. And then like we have like a network of about 25,000 CA firms which are also like on our platform, experts, tax experts, and all of those guys who are on our platform, who are facilitators sometimes to these businesses, who can help them like do the paperwork, or who can help them close the formalities or do the like all that.
Archit, I want to ask you, see, you started in 2011,
Yeah.
and honestly, for the journey that you've made now, right? Like the numbers that you are saying, this is very significant number. And from 2011, if we say 2020, it's not, it seems like to young people that okay, it's 9 years, but it is not. When you build a company, when you build an enterprise, when you grow a startup, I want to understand if you have to look at your 9 years to get here, because I interact with a lot of people in the space that you are in, but it's ad hoc, it's still unstructured, there are brands, people are doing one thing or the other, and it's very fragmented. But you've been able to build a brand, you've been able to acquire these customers. What are the two, three things that you think you've done right to get here. And I'm going to pick one away already so that you don't repeat it, that you listened to the customers.
Yeah, I think that would be the first one. So I think I'm glad you took it out. Like I think like let me break down the journey for some of the
Yeah.
entrepreneurs who may be listening to this, right? Like so, and like frankly, I can't believe it's been 9 years. Like I mean, like when I hear it from you, like it's yes, I mean, like it's a moment of that. But I think like 2011 to 2014 was frankly like just the three or four of us in a room, right? It was incredibly challenging, like bootstrap, completely bootstrap, very tough time, no affirmation or like from anybody, because like startups were much harder, right? Like it's much sexier to now start a
Yeah,
company.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I think like uh, a very like good movement, but very very slow. The only thing was we were obsessed with product and we just kept improving it. So I think we were like on the right track in that dimension. We didn't know we were doing fintech. We didn't know we will get into financial services. So I think like some of this was like we were able to connect in hindsight, not in foresight. So I'll be the first one to say we didn't have like that sharp level vision. यही करना है, ये ऐसे ही जाना है, that kind of thing. I think we were just very obstinate. So I think we are very very relentless and resourceful. I think we are like very relentless. Like we were like, okay, we'll get this done. We'll get this done. So I think like that resourceful part is like, okay, Indian we ecosystem is maybe not mature yet. So let's go to a mature ecosystem, which is the Bay Area. Because I had been in the Bay Area, so I knew like how mature the ecosystem is. Like one funny story I'll tell you. Like the day I was quitting my job, like in the US, like when I moved to India and started ClearTax, my boss like offered me like a check of like $250,000 and said like I'll angel investor in a company. I said I don't know what the company does. I don't know the company. It's like he said, hey, you work with me. I'll invest in you. So I was like,
Wow.
so I mean, how? And this was like I didn't take a check from him in 2011, which I, in hindsight, realized maybe I should have, maybe I shouldn't have. But then YC became that first inflection point. Then like Peter Thiel's founders fund, or like Max Levchin, all of these guys like really affirm that like okay, invest in a young startup, young founder. I think that was a moment of one transformation. Like so, I think as you're asking that question, like how do I view the 9 years? How do founders view? That was one inflection point from crossing over to like, okay, we have this interesting thing going, but now, okay, let's really double down. Let's really fight it out and make something big out. I think subsequent to that, like a bunch of investors invested, like we have raised over $70 million of capital. So that
70
part is,
million.
yeah, 70, yeah.
Wow, that also must have helped, no?
Yeah, obviously. I mean, like investing ahead of the curve obviously helps.
Yeah.
Yeah, like so. I think like I think like to be fair, like I think we've
To
had.
be fair, but I have to say this because I said this about the capital. I think the capital also must have come to you because capital, as we all know, once you be raised and in the process of raising, it just doesn't come like that. And
Yeah.
it would have come because it would have come on the back of the numbers now that you're saying. So there must have been data point and growth trajectory, which you anyways must be demonstrating, right?
Absolutely. I think like obviously investors value growth and that's how the investment comes. And we've been always like a weird sort of counterintuitive bet, right? Like in India, like who will pay for taxes, who will pay for investments, and like how do you take this journey into like financial services? Because like the analogy is very similar to payment, Shraddha. Like taxes is as ubiquitous and as familiar, like as everybody needs to do them, like in a certain segment, right? That the same segment is probably like trying to do digital payments, right?
Yeah,
Broadly similar. So
yeah.
like you start to see like their flows, you start to help them with their financial needs and so on and so forth. So that is the germination of the company and evolution of it. So I think like we also like in hindsight couldn't see it, but as we started progressing further, we could start seeing it. And I think like capital definitely helped. I think resourcefulness, relentlessness definitely helps. I think the third one has been like I think just the team. I think I was fortunate enough to like slowly build together a team like around the company's mission that that really helped us get from A to B, B to C, and like I think it has just been like that. That very strong contributions
How
from
many
our team.
people are you in? How many people are there in ClearTax?
So that always amazes me, Shada. Like in lockdown, it was like the part which was like the 750 odd people. So
750 people.
yeah, yeah.
Wow, you built a large business then. Yeah, wow, 750.
Yeah, 2014 we were three.
And 2014 you were three.
Yeah, so 2011 to 2014 were three people, like all the
Wow.
time.
Wow, phenomenal. Wow. I'm also very impressed because, and this for everyone watching, is that, this at the heart of it, this is so powerful, no? There are 750 people who have jobs, who are employed because you were relentless and you started.
Uh,
Yeah, something. Yeah.
Hopefully, I think like hopefully our impact on the ecosystem will be far bigger, where like millions of businesses like start to see like better financial outcomes. Our mission is to simplify financial lives. So our mission is like every day, like when we wake up, like how do we like help that business owner or the consumer like make like their outcome 10 years down the line much better for their
Yeah.
kids or their businesses.
Yeah, no, and I can see with your agility, because one of the patterns I'm seeing is that while you're listening to the customers, you are fast building on the solutions that they need. No, so tomorrow there'll be so many more things. Yeah, 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 yeah. Archit, now I have to ask you this: what do you have to think of the, And you said that you heard my interview with the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. I want to ask you what is your view on the government packages, especially for MSME, and what is happening?
Yeah, I think it's a good start. So like in terms of like but I think like we as a country should probably do more. I think we have to be like but I don't like, it's a very tough question, to be honest. Like, I mean, I'll break it down into some very simple things that I believe in. I think like offering some universal basic income right now in a period of toughness to people below the poverty line and people who are struggling right now, I feel is important, because then they can go out and buy food for their children and what have you. Like, I mean, that's very, very important. The second one is like I feel like the MSME businesses like are under tremendous amount of stress. Like we're seeing some of them disappear in GST right now, and like they're not filing, they're not like paying taxes, and so I mean some of it is obviously regulatory relief, but our hope is that they come back from this. Like,
And you
but
have 6 lakh of them, no?
yeah,
6 lakhs.
yeah. So
Yeah.
my worry is like whether they will survive this, and like how does like economic package like the US is, for example, like putting a lot of money, like about like 5% or 10% of the GDP behind this, right? Like if I boil down the India's programs, like while we are claiming 5% of GDP or 10% of GDP, I think the program effectively is 1.5%. So I think we need to spend a lot more to get like people
Yeah.
into
Yeah.
some universal basic income out there, so that people start spending. And some of this I think the government is doing harder work on credit squeeze, but I think there's still a lot of credit squeeze because people are not lending, and I think some of that is that I think should ease over time. But I think I can see the tremendous amount of stress there's out there. So I think more economic packages should come out, and the government should be aggressive to build infra, to kick off like large projects, like build put people jobs, to put jobs out there, to put people to work. Let's build like more highways, more infrastructure, more digital physical infrastructure in this time, like where we can like be deflationary a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Very, very, very important point. Very, very good point. This is, yeah. So basically, large projects which employs large number of people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that like probably is infra, I mean, to me.
Yeah. 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 uh, you know, I want to, now I'm assuming that you call yourself a fintech startup or something like that. We also started hearing all these buzzwords, from 2015, 16, I don't know, fintech. So, I want to understand from your lens, because you have built such a remarkable company with ClearTax. What are some of the opportunities still remaining in fintech, and what should India do to build its fintech story in a very, very strong way?
Right. So I'm assuming, Shada, you're boiling the question to the Indian market, right? Not global.
Yes, yes, Indian
Okay.
market,
Okay.
Indian
Yeah.
market.
Yeah. So I think few things, Shada. I think like fintech, the opportunity in the next 10 years is even brighter than the first. Like, so I feel like there's much more. काफी picture बाकी है अभी, and most of the picture is upfront. So I think like right now we are at the infancy stage of like what we know as fintech. So I feel like this is like scratching the surface level. So because like there are not many at scale fintechs in our country right now. I mean,
Yeah,
there are some payment companies like Paytm, PhonePe, Google Pay, and what have you, and you have some trading platforms which are okay, doing okay, and like after that, like everything else is nascent. I feel like I feel like there'll be very strong companies which will emerge in what I feel what we are doing, software, SaaS, and financial services combined. Because what that does is like you're able to put together software which people are using every day, paying for, and then you're putting together like some financial service offerings because that brings down your fundamental cost of customer acquisition. So I think a lot more plays will come in that. So we are just seeing like the first wave of it. So I think like there are some startups I can name, but like we're seeing some wave of it. The second part is like I think, Shradha, we have not solved wealth, investing, wealth, like all the, like all of us, like ourselves included, like are just like barely on the surface of it.
Yeah.
I think globally it is being solved for the first time. Everybody's going at it. Robinhood has built a game out there, like it's a gaming app, like if you will, like which lets you do it trading for fun. And like in India, like there are many things evolving. And I think as income levels rise, like more and more like products will come out of this. Like this is just the start. So I don't think we have solved like customers making choices uh, around like their money, like at a fundamental level. There are no high quality tools. I think that's just getting started. I think on the consumer side, I see like white space. I think like you can do a lot of things in the consumer side, especially on helping people save money, invest money, move money. I think all three, like I think interesting opportunities available. Uh, I think on the MSME and the business side, like, I think you have to choose your customer segment because it's very
Yeah.
very wide.
Yeah.
But I think like my belief is access to credit kind of things will continue to, like you'll see like at least five important companies come out of it because the market is so big.
Yeah.
The second part is like I think a lot more software fintechs will come out, like companies like ours, because they will have like very high quality software offering, and then you'll see a very high quality financial service offering coming together. Because we are doing something fundamentally what banks can't do. I think fintechs which will win will do things which banks fundamentally don't do well. I think if bank can do that well, I think then like you don't have a play or a win. I can see you laughing, so I think.
Yeah, no, no, I was just thinking, because that, like somehow I feel I'm seeing the banks also like really get into the game, right? Like in the last 2 years. So yeah, yeah, yeah. But true. Do you still feel? Do you feel still, Nate? Do you feel lending is still largely in the purview of banks? Banks will do the best job when it comes to lending.
So I think banks have a structural advantage. Shraddha. One, they can take deposits, so they have the lowest cost of capital. Second, they have regulatory arbitrage, if you will. It's very tough to be a bank because of the regulation, but like once you are it, like I think there's a massive opportunity available. So I think banks and fintechs will play nice. I mean, like,
Ah,
and what I see is like it's an ecosystem. Banks are part of the ecosystem. Fintechs are part of the ecosystem, and there'll be other parts of the ecosystem, and you cannot wish away any of these
yeah,
pieces. I think what you are seeing is some fintechs like are going and acquiring banks, and you'll see the reverse also in consolidation phases. Banks will go acquire fintechs. So I think you'll see both of them. I think in the US you're starting to see just the start of like, obviously in the US the big tech companies are bigger than banks, right? So they can go acquire banks, and banks are available cheaper there. Square obviously owns a bank, right? The Square app, they own a bank, so they can hold money. They can. In India, I think like I still want to see how this thing happens, but like uh, I think like you'll see very interesting models emerge.
so, one very good thing I hear, and my team has sent me this data that you are hiring, ClearTax is hiring during this COVID crisis. And this is very important because most of the companies are laying off, furloughs are coming into place. It is very tough time. So thank you on behalf of everyone whom you will employ, and the 750 people who work in your team. I want to understand from you, what's the big dream that ClearTax is dreaming when it comes to India? What is it, and what can we expect from you?
Right. So, Shada, like just to like it's been like I feel like we're so fortunate, like so lucky, like so I have so much gratitude for the fact that our business was like not deeply impacted due to this crisis. I think there's a lot of pain and suffering out there because of like COVID-19, and like so many of my startup founder friends are like dealing with much tougher time than I am. So really, as a team and as a person, I'm grateful to that. The second part is like I think I think like our dream is like actually very simple, and then like very big in terms of like we want Indians to have a great relationship with money, right? We are overall as a we are an emerging economy. right? We are very poor compared to like the world's GDP, the per capita, and so on and so forth. Like my goal is to power prosperity and increase India's GDP if I can. Like, so that is the company's goal, right? Like, so how do we do that? I want to first fix people's relationship with their money. On the consumer side, I feel like people have a very poor relationship with their money. Like people don't understand how to save it, how to invest it. People are afraid of money. Like, kya
Yeah.
karna hai? And so I feel like that is still not solved. Like, yes, we have made like a checkout, like buying process of a stock or a mutual fund easier, but we've not fundamentally fixed the relationship with money of like millennials, and like they really struggle. Like, how should they ride out this crisis? How should they like think about money so that they have a rainy day fund for their children and their children's education, and like they can think about that. So I think first I want to fix the meta problem of powering prosperity, like money. So on the MSME and the business side, Shraddha, I have two dreams. Like one is like it's in our country, right? Businesses don't have good high quality software, like which is like you as a business owner, right? Like there's no app in your smartphone which is telling you how is your business doing, what is
Yeah.
your cash flow, how much are you, what is your receivable to, what, like you have to like constantly like think about, like you're using WhatsApp for communication, you have the best in class tools for everything else except running your business, which is like 90% of your mind share, focus, and
Yeah.
like energy, right? And the second part is like, how do we like use this information, right? And use the knowledge that our systems have, and really unlock like financial health for businesses, right? Like what do I mean by that? If you have excess capital right now, how does it like earn money? Doesn't sit in a current account. If
Yeah.
you are seeking capital right at this time, like working capital, debt, what have you, how does it show up to you at the most efficient cost terms? Because you are on a digital platform, and capital should find you. If
Yeah.
you're a good business, like if you're a good business, you have good metrics, you have a good credit score, like why should you like have to have collateral, like b, why should not the most efficient lender who can give you the right, like be available to you? So that is not yet unlocked. And I feel like if we bring down the cost of capital by 2% to every business, right, it can unlock like 6% of GDP growth, right? Like, because there's a 3x result of like better access to credit capital to MSMEs. It will lead to more employment, more jobs in the economy, and more prosperity for our country. So I feel that is the mission.
We wish that you fulfill your dream, because then the country and all of us will get to fulfill our dreams. This is amazing, audacious, but so purposeful. Yeah, very, very inspiring, Archit, talking to you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shraddha, for having me. Thank you.